probably, can you guys hear me all right? I mean, you're right here. You probably don't need to hear me on this microphone, but we should probably get started because 12:40 is our go time, and I know you have many, many other places to be, but thank you for joining us here for this session. My name is Tracey Miller-Zarneke. I am thrilled to be co-hosting today. I'm with Women in Animation. I've been on the board of that for 8 years or so now, and as a woman who's had children while working in the animation industry, I'm pleased that we're having this discussion today. We'll get back to my details later, but first let me introduce my co-host here.
Hi, thanks for, just to echo Tracey, thanks for spending an hour with us because we know there's a lot going on this weekend, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of enlighten you on what it looks like to have kids. I see a couple of kids here, but and try and maintain some sort of career in entertainment. My name is Rachel Meinerding. I'm a co-founder of Concept Art Association, which is an organization that was formed to kind of help advocate and elevate concept artists and visual development artists working in entertainment. And we have 3 wonderful visual development artists here with us today. Eliza, will you mind kicking us off with a little bit about your career status, your family situation?
Sure.
Go for it.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Eliza, and no worries. It's totally fine. And I am currently freelancing. I was at Pixar for 10 years. I became a mom at Pixar. And in 2019, after my second kid was born, I decided to just try out freelance and see how it goes. And my life has been that since. I have 2 kids, and I shall pass it to Pernille.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Pernille, and I am a freelance artist. I have a 2-year-old son, and I have been freelancing throughout the last 10 years of my career, so that will be my point of view. And I am currently located in Kenya, which also means that I might have a few advantages and a few disadvantages as well that we can talk about.
Hi everyone. My name is Lynn, and I live here in LA, and I work freelancely, but I do have an employer. So I work for a game company that's based in Israel. I've been working with them for over a year now. And yeah, I also have a 2-year-old son, and I have we also are expecting a girl next March. So it's so weird. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of challenges, but it's also a lot of I guess just experience or things we could talk about. Yeah.
Hey, well, great. I feel like the elder of the group. I actually just delivered my firstborn to college a few weeks ago. So just to back up a little, I was most involved in the animation industry with publicity and production management, specifically production management at Disney Feature Animation. The 2 films that I worked on that actually came out when I was there were The Emperor's New Groove and Chicken Little. And I'm also a voice talent in Meet the Robinsons, but that's a teeny thing. But anyway, I'm going to just set it up with my experience. I was working at the studio in Burbank and living about an hour away when I was doing that. I had my first son while I was working on Chicken Little and realized if I wanted to see him during the daylight hours, I might not be able to have a studio job that was actually in studio the whole time. So I tried to come up with what would be a neat way to stay connected with animation but not in a studio. And so I took a detour and kind of went back to my publicity and writing roots and started writing books about animation. So if you type my name in Amazon, you'll see I've done a good number of art books and history books and textbooks about animation, which has been thrilling for me just to find that little niche thing to do to stay, connected with this industry, but not locked into the studio for those many, many hours that it takes to work on a production. So, that's my own personal journey. Probably unique in some ways, but everyone up here has had to figure out ways to keep their professional life going and also have a family. So we're going to dive into that now. I don't know, do you want to start off with any particular angle in this discussion? Like, I don't know, typical work day? What do you think?
So I'm a little bit different. I don't kind of come from an animation background. My background is costuming for live action. I very quickly realized that I was not going to be able to continue doing that if I wanted to have a family. There are some things that you just can't get around, like, there's ways that you can make freelance lifestyles work, but when you're on production, on a shoot, the fact of the matter is the industry is just not set up currently. At least it's not here. I know that there are other parts of the world that I think, Pernille will probably be able to talk to with Kenya, and just the way that different countries approach parenthood. The US is not quite there yet with what the rest of the world is doing in terms of supporting people, especially within the industry. But I basically stopped my career because it was never gonna. My husband works in the industry, and kind of what Tracey's saying, if we wanted to have a family where we were present, both of us working in the industry, that was not. I'm not saying it can't be done, and it's no disrespect to people that are able to make that work in different ways, but that wasn't the lifestyle that we wanted for our family. So I took a step back, and then kind of like Tracey, kind of have slowly found my way back through Concept Art Association, where I was able to start a business and dictate my own hours. So I prioritize, my kids are still, I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I was able, I started the business when my daughter was 2-ish, something like that. But I was able to do that because it was my business, and I was able to put as much or as little into it as I wanted to. And I think, can any of you guys talk to like making those adjustments? Like you were talking about, like, okay, I'm not going to be at Pixar, I'm going to do freelance work. How has that been for you?
So when I was at Pixar, I had my daughter, and I stayed there for quite a while. But it was challenging because even from nursing, that whole adjustment, while you were at a corporate job, is such a whirlwind.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And it became, I think I was just younger at the time, and I was like, I can make it work. I think it's possible. And I did, but the schedules got progressively more intense. And when I decided to have a second kid, the time was right when I felt like I'm also okay with leaving if I have to. And I communicated that with my managers. They were totally on board when, I was already pregnant and I was saying these decisions. So it was nice that they were flexible to put me on a schedule that wasn't as insane as like a typical crunch time. I was in animation, character animation. So because of that, we're in production, and production takes kind of the biggest hit in terms of schedules. It just takes so much less time to, it just progressively became from a year to like 11 months, then 10 months, then 8 months to, create a whole movie, which is pretty hard, especially when you have kids and you want to have that life and work balance. And so I just decided to do a big shift after 10 years and try freelance. But yeah, the kids were the decision maker in this case for me. And it's great, but I wish it was a little different, I would say, in terms of flexibility, how flexible they were with remote work. That was pre-pandemic, and I and a bunch of other moms, we actually asked to be able to do like half and half, do some work at home, show up for meetings. The answer was no. And I was like, why? The reasoning was there's not enough interest. So it literally kind of, I wouldn't say unionizing, but just collectively talking to people and getting a whole bunch of people on board, it really makes a difference. So if you want to have some kind of flexibility by your employer, I would suggest just count on numbers, count on having many people. If there's a lot of people on board. Actually, I found out post factum that there was a bunch of people that were interested in this, even dads, not just moms. And then the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden, everybody's super flexible. But I wasn't there anymore, so.
I want to ask, were any of your bosses parents?
Yes,
Okay, so they should have known better.
pretty much all.
Wow, that's so fascinating, because I think that's some of the problem is, when we've had these conversations before, is it's like, okay, I have a female boss, or I have a parent boss who's able to advocate for me. So there's the thing that's frustrating to me as someone that is not even in the industry, but I feel like I could never really go back into the industry, is that there's even parents aren't advocating for other parents, it feels like.
Yeah. I think it was just a matter of being a little more persistent. I think I could have pushed it, but I didn't know at the time that something like a pandemic can literally flip a company so quickly. So it's like, oh, that's an option. And I think now, if I ever decide to go back, this is such a powerful thing to have. Like, well, you did it for everybody during the pandemic. Why not now?
Yeah, I just because I want to hear your guys' personal experiences too, because sharing that will be very important. But I do want to say that when the pandemic hit, I know Women in Animation really looked at this like, oh, this is a reset. We can be flexible. We can learn how to work from home or work on a more flexible schedule and still get our work done and still be present when we need to be present for our families. So I will say, as bad as the whole pandemic situation has been, it definitely put a spotlight on the moment of, oh, maybe we should be flexible. And I will say, I know there are some studios, smaller studios, that continue to be flexible, but I don't think it's quite the norm yet. But I will say, again, like from Women in Animation's perspective, we're not done talking about this, because caretaking, whether it's elder parents or younger kids or a spouse or another family member, that's always just a part of humanity, right? And so why can't the job work with that? Why can't the job support that? That is absolutely a conversation that I know will continue. And again, I hope some studios are learning this and others will learn it as we go forward together. But Pernille, do you want to talk about what your situation has been? Just, again, different perspectives, I think, are valuable, so you guys can see where people have approached this and what decisions they've made. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think mine is a little, it's very different. Kind of feel bad talking about it, but
Give us go.
okay, but
Moving to Kenya, basically.
well, it's the combination of working for freelance for U.S. companies, living in Kenya with what's affordable there, and having the healthcare system of coming from Denmark, which is a pretty good trifecta, I found out, being freelance. I am part of like a guild in Denmark as a freelancer, which means that they, together with the government, gives me a pretty paid 1 year maternity leave, which gives myself like time to figure out, like when I start working, of course it ends, but it gave me time, because I thought I always work really hard. I always was very driven. And what I discovered that kind of scared me was when I was like getting towards 6 months pregnant, my work brain kind of turned off. My motivation for being like whatever I could be as an artist and all that drive and what I wanted to do disappeared. And it was gone a long time after, which I enjoyed it. I've been working so hard, but my situation gave me time to just be with the kid and enjoy that. And it kind of took me a year and a half to start, like I could start feeling the bubbling of the excitement, and it was nice to like let it in. But I really enjoyed that I could take that time, because I thought that, I'm going to have the kid 3 months in, I'm going to have to work, figure it out, because that's just always what I did. But my situation was different. So I took that time for myself and started doing my own thing first. And after a year, I started working at a company now. I'm working on a Netflix thing. Been doing that for the last year. Yeah. So And then the Kenyeth aspect is that you can afford help too. So I have very long work days, but the kid is taken care of in my home. So I see him throughout the day and take time from like 5 to 7 to just to be with him, and then I figure out afterwards if I need to do more work. So I have a really privileged setup, I feel, right now for where we're at, and I could not afford that anywhere else. So.
Lynn, do you want to share some?
Yeah, I think, well, I've always kind of working freelance, at least working from home my entire career, but it just like happened in 2019. Actually, that's 2020. In March, I started a new job, and I started going in the office in LA in the animation studio, which is super exciting for me. I was like, yay! Like finally, I'm in the studio.
I don't think they can hear you. I think you might need to bring the microphone.
Sorry, I'm just saying. Yeah, in 2020 March, I started a new job in the animation studio. Before that, I was always working from home, so I was super excited. Hey, I'm gonna be working in the studio, super cool. And at that time, I didn't know. Well, I just found out I was pregnant, but like, still, like, I feel like, oh, I can do this. It's gonna be fine. But you know, when the pandemic hits, everything shut down. I was only working in the studio for a week, and I'm back in my office, my home office, which is fine, you know, because I'm used to that. I have everything I needed. So I feel like, just like what Tracey was saying, I think for us who can work from home, it actually worked out really well. Like during my pregnancy and even after, I was able to still do some work that I love. But I do notice like there is a change for sure. Like because after my boy was born, you know, like because the pandemic is so bad, we couldn't hire any nanny because it's probably not safe. And my parents are in China. They can't come over here. And my husband's parents, they're out of state. So we're pretty much on our own. That I didn't expect. It's like when I was pregnant, I thought like, oh my God, I'm going to be living like the princess after I deliver a baby, you know, like I will be taken care of. Everything will be fine. I will recover, and then I can do my work, do the things I love to do again pretty soon. But it was so different. It was so tough because it's only 2 of us. So I had maternity leave because I had C-section. So it's like 8 weeks in the States. But I realized that's not enough, especially when you don't have childcare. So that was a hard lesson for me to learn, and it was a really hard time for me to get through everything. I think it's not until the little guy is 6 months old, I actually stopped working at the animation studio, and I got a new job offer at the company I'm currently working at. So because it's more flexible hours and it's much better pay, so I was able to actually afford childcare so I can continue what I love to do. But before that, it was like really disruptive. I don't know how many of us are actually thinking about having a kids, or, you know, or just like me, I was like, oh, maybe I'll have a kid, and then suddenly it happened. It's such a shock. So not everything is planned out, but I think if like we can have any suggestions, just like if you're planning to have kids or not, if you want to continue with your career, definitely just have some help from family or from childcare. That's just something, yeah, it's good to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The logistics are challenging, right?
Yeah.
That is absolutely a fact, which, you know, adding a human being to your life alone is a logistical challenge. But Elisa, did you have support? How did you were saying, I know you both have expressed how you have or haven't had support. What was your situation with childcare or not?
Yes, but I think it's, again, my husband and me, like, we don't have family here either. So again, same thing, like, we're just kind of on our own and trying to figure it out, like, what's going on at the time.
Yeah, I have to say.
And then, you know, daycare, nannies.
Yeah, I personally, my husband had established a working from home situation before we had kids. So he was kind of in a groove of working from home and also practicing on walking a dog and things like that before we had kids. That was a thing. That was the practice kid. But I will say...
I will say having a dog is nothing like having a child.
it's definitely not.
So
It's
anyone...
Definitely not.
yeah. Let me.
Sorry, you guys.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice idea, but not really going to cut it.
I'm so prepared for a kid, you guys. I have a dog.
Right.
Like,
No, because I'll tell you right now, my dog is home alone for about 4 hours. That doesn't fly with a kid. So no, that's not going to happen. But I will say, I was grateful that I had that opportunity for him having worked from home and learning, okay, how does my day go first? And then we kind of complemented each other. When I started working from home, like, okay, I legit have to sit at my computer and stare at it for a while to get this manuscript out. But in my case, I could do that at night. It was only when I would go to a studio to do interviews that we really had to come up with the extra body somewhere in the mix. So I'm, hearing how you've managed it or not, had people in the house or not, is a good thing to make sure everybody thinks about before they go down this path. Sometimes, have you guys ever encountered someone with like a job share scenario where you go reduced hours, but try to complement one another? You probably can't in your line of work, but I do know some studios have talked about trying to find job share opportunities. They're very rare, though. So I will just say it's a nice idea, something to talk about. But
I mean, yeah, that's
possible.
No, but I mean, that's, I feel like we've started this off with a little bit of doom and gloom, being like, it's all like, it's real hard, you guys, don't do it. But, ultimately when we first started having these conversations and creating these panels and spaces was to, just to have people think a little bit more. And maybe there's someone in the audience that's able to be like, oh, I can advocate for that, or let's push for that. And like, that's what a lot of what women in animation do is like, how can we support our community and organizations like you and, Concept Art Association to a degree, just making sure that these conversations are continued to have, because it does need to change, because there's no reason why it exists the way that it does in the US when it doesn't exist this way, like most other places in the world. Like you compare the support that parents get, and if you're looking at comparable companies that have similar policies, it's like, why are we in that same world of how we treat parents? But I mean, this is proof that you can have a child, you can have a successful career. So if there's anyone here like that's worrying, like, oh God, I should just leave this panel now because there's no hope, there is, but you have to advocate for yourself and make smart choices for your family if you have the luxury to be able to do that, right? I mean, again, this is all we're all talking from a place of privilege here. I feel like that we're able to make these decisions for our family, which is not the case for some people, right? You have to be like, well, I need a job, I need to work. I just wanted to say that we are going to we want to talk about like how you can make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I add something
Oh,
to what you're saying about the doom and gloom thing? I don't see it at all like that. I think it's like a wake up call. That was for me, because so when I was at Pixar, I did animation, which is, as you know, 3D. There's no drawing. I mean, for the most part, maybe you would thumbnail, but it's a lot of clicking, a lot of graphs and numbers, and then it's creative, just a different type of creativity. I came from drawing, so I always had this itch for drawing, and I would do it everywhere all the time. I would skip lunches to go draw. And it wasn't until I had my daughter that I was like, oh, I really don't have time now. I always thought I know I'll make a book one day or something like that. And I was like, this is never going to happen unless I actually put my foot down. It's like, I'm doing this. So for me, it was almost like it channeled my energy to go from like, oh, I can do this and this and this, to be like, okay, let me just focus on making a book. Let's see if it happens. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I tried. So I was planning to make a book, I want to say for 3 years. It took 6 months after having a daughter to really have it ready for printing. It was that like, just laser focus. So that's a huge thing I never expected from being a parent. It was just such a reality check. but in a positive way.
Yeah, I feel like, you develop different efficiencies, which maybe if you guys have other stories like that or tips and tricks about using your time wisely, that is important. But I think for sure you get into, like, I will tell you, I remember about a week after giving birth, I was sitting in the corner of the rocking chair nursing thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in jail. What's happening? Like, it was crazy. And I was so disappointed in myself that I couldn't even get a load of laundry done. I mean, it just wasn't happening. So I really had to shift my type A, I'm in charge of everything I can do all the time. Being a production manager, I was used to having a schedule, checking boxes. Like, it was very much in my control. It was a hard shift for me to realize, okay, things might not work quite the way I thought they would, but you learn efficiencies and you learn how to channel your energy, I think, to fit what, the moment needs. So I don't know if you guys have any other stories like that you want to talk about, just the use of your time maybe, or, anything that shifted in that way might be helpful.
They're like, we don't do anything now. I have no time to do anything.
Go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say I feel like I'm worse at time management, but I'm still learning. But like I do notice, like, because having a kid, there are a lot of things you want to do because you want to spend time with him and you want to get your personal work done, you want to get your work done. So it's a lot for me. It's like, yeah, definitely. If I want to get everything down, just figure out a priority and get it done. Last weekend we have a birthday party for the little guy, and this weekend we're doing LightBox, and next weekend we're having a little break, but the weekend after we're doing a workshop. So it's like oh, it sounds a lot, but it's like after you realize one thing at a time, it's actually pretty manageable. If you actually can't do it, then just maybe give yourself, at least I do so, just give myself a break. Okay, that's too much. I can't do that. I can't do it all. So just learn to say no a little bit. I think that helps too.
Yeah, I would also say for me, it's been more about creating me time. About after Flint my son went to bed, I always thought I was going to sit and draw, maybe work a little bit more, but I realized that I just need that time to just do anything else, sometimes I go to bed at 8 when he's down and I just lie in bed and read, or I don't read, I watch something. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to go with that. Yeah. Yes. So because I can't even, I don't even want to be on the sofa. I'm too tired. And also about taking time, like I have LightBox this weekend. Next week I'm throwing a birthday party for my 2-year-old. So I'm the same as you. And this is the first thing I've done since I've had Flint. I am not 100% sure if it is COVID or if it's the kid. I actually think it's the kid. I just needed time for something else. And I was really, in the beginning I was reluctant, but I just decided to give myself that time and say it's okay to step out for a little bit, because when you come back, if you just push a little bit, there's room for you, especially in stuff like this. Work-wise, I don't know, that's but for the community, there's always room. So I was just say that's what I took out of it. I don't need to work all the time, and I'm also important.
What other self-care tips do you guys have, in terms of making space, or is that non-existent? What do you do?
What do you mean?
Well, just how do you de-stress? How do you take care of yourself? What are you doing for yourself that's outside of your family?
I went grocery shopping. No.
Yeah.
For me, is literally making sure I am healthy, working out, just mental health, whatever it is, just making sure that I'm 100%, so that I know that if anybody else isn't, I'm available. But also just for my own personal happiness, I have to know that as Pernille said, take care of yourself. Just make sure that if you need time off, whatever it is, if you can do it, do it.
Yeah, I'll say, I think a lot of times I don't want to stereotype, but women are naturally thought of as the caretakers. And sometimes we need to stop for a minute and go, I'm not the only one that can do these things, you know? It usually takes two parents to make a child. Usually, not always. But you know, it's great to be able to lean on other people. Like again, like I was like, I'm in control. I got all these things. I know how to get things done. I had to stop and say, okay, let's change that mindset because, you know, there are other people that can help. I can ask for help. Okay, maybe my husband won't wash the dishes the way I would, but it's okay. The dishes are still getting done. You know, there are ways to share household and childcare responsibilities and just, you know, roll with it a little bit. Be open to that. And also to give yourself that space and grace to maybe it's not like the top level that you used to do, but maybe that's not the most important thing anymore. You know, I feel like there are ways that we all evolve and learn in this process. But I want to bring it back to the work focus a little bit because I think a lot of people are here to understand how to move forward. And I think, again, part of it is knowing what you want to do and trying to find that path. You know, like you were saying, you know, you weren't the only one that wanted to have a part-time job or have a shared flexible schedule or have a, you know, some flexibility. Have those conversations with people. You'll probably see you're not the only one feeling that way. And sometimes there is someone in the structure or in the guild or in the something that can help you get to that endpoint. I would say absolutely know that you're probably not alone feeling like, I want to make this work, this family and professional thing. So talk to other folks and find your way. And again, you know, Women in Animation is just one organization that's trying to do that. But there are other people in the industry that want to make it a more family-friendly place. I mean, I always go back to the Walt Disney Company is about, you know, family entertainment, right? So come on, step it up. Let's show this. And I think there are some places where it has learned how to do that. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that these conversations will engender more change.
I do feel like actually like ever since the pandemic, people are become more forgiving. Like, because we're all working from home. Like before, like if you have a meeting and a child or little guy pop up on the screen, you'll be like, no, you can't do that. But right now, it's like, oh yeah, it's okay because we're all on the same boat. We all have the same problem. We're all dealing with the same issue, and it's really nice. You know, sometimes we have show and tell time. We say, hey, this is my boy, or hey, this is my cat, dog. You know, fur babies. But yeah, I think I'm hopeful too. I think in general, like, we are moving towards this direction. It'll be more supportive for family care, for everything, because right now we're openly talking about it and raising more awareness of it. So I think things will change in a good direction for sure.
Go on.
I want to say, so I would encourage everybody to really take advantage of the free stuff out there, like social media. It's as toxic it can be and overwhelming, it is such a nice thing to connect with people without having a middleman. And that gives you confidence that there's life out there for you, even if you don't continue on your career path or wherever you are. If you can consider having a family, whatever it is, I would say really do that. Because when I was at Pixar is when I started working on, you know, posting stuff online. I did it for just creating a habit to keep drawing and not forget it. And all of a sudden, it kind of started blowing up. I was like, what is this? I don't know what to do with this. I don't understand it. I don't really know how to take advantage of it yet, but it's nice. And it really gave me confidence when it was time to leave, because I already had such an established thing to be like, okay, it feels like a calculated risk. It wasn't like a spur of the moment, like I'm done and then just storm out. It was a very slow process, even though it felt sudden when it happened. It was a process of, I want to say, at least 2 years, just preparing for a moment. When it felt right, I was ready, I was equipped. So that's something I would encourage everybody. There's no early time to start. I'd say start now, better than not.
Yeah, I think envisioning where you might go and finding that community like you're talking about. You had, you know,
Yes.
that just even if it was in the virtual world, you had that sense of
It's
people
powerful.
following your story. It's powerful, right? I think that's important, having
Not necessarily the
connection.
monetization part, just the connection part.
Yeah,
And you find community in the oddest places, and it's beautiful. And I think, Pernille,
Yeah.
you have a whole panel about coming up, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Social media has been very helpful in me finding my own path and not being scared of if I ended up sitting with a kid and couldn't find a job that worked with a studio. I wasn't scared because I developed something that was my own, and I was like, no matter what, I'll make this work. Like I'll make another book. I'll make something. So it's definitely a great tool because like the rest of you, I had no idea what I got into, and I know if I was in a studio, I would be very, very much in doubt whether or not a kid was the right path for me, because I always knew that my dream was to work in animation, and I knew that the kind of stuff I wanted to do, I might have to give up to have a kid. So I'm happy that I did that journey before, and it gave me the tools and confidence to not have to worry about giving up my job.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask that question to Eliza and Lynn, actually, it sounds like you all had established careers before you had children. What would that kind of recommendation or message be to someone that's just starting out? Like, do you think there's value in having your career established than having children, or do you think people can come into the industry as a parent? Like, what was that kind of decision like for you? Or did you kind of, I mean, Lynn, you sort of said like, oh, we're having a baby. Like, it wasn't necessarily planned I mean, probably was planned to a degree, but
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
there's a difference, right, in having an established career and being able to step away versus trying to break into the industry as a parent. Like, do you guys have any kind of comments about that?
I don't have that perspective.
Okay, perfect.
I wish I
That's great.
did.
No, that,
So my only perspective is having a career and then having kids. But regardless, it feels scary, like to leave your job. It feels so scary. You're like, I don't know. I mean, this might go down quickly. Especially in the U.S. when you have no safety net. You don't have health care. As soon as you're out of the company, you go on temporary health care until you find something, and it's terrifying. So there's a lot of adjustment. I would say everybody will make it work. I think that's kind of a thing I found out is regardless of the situation, I had a very difficult second pregnancy, so that was a big factor in leaving too. Just kind of having to deal with just not even like my body not doing well. And when my son was born, he was in the NICU for 2 months. So it was like life-changing stuff. But even through that, we made it work. So I'm like, okay, this is good. So I think everybody makes it as long as have a little bit of like fearlessness. It helps.
Yeah, actually, I just want to detour for a sec. You brought up a good point about insurance. I think we all, as adults, worry about that a bit. I'm actually grateful that we have covered California now. There are things that weren't there even, in the 18 years ago that I had to make that choice to leave the studio structure because being self-employed. What do you do for insurance? I mean, I am grateful. There's more of a cushion there now available than there was. I mean, it may not be the best, but it's way better than nothing, I would say. Again, being now freelance for the last 17 years, I've had to pay my own insurance, and it's been a challenge. But that's a good point to just talk about that part of it. That's another logistic. But there are programs that are helpful now that really weren't there even a decade ago. So that's a good thought.
Yeah, for me, actually, it's I don't know if it's unique for me because when I had my first pregnancy, I was just starting at an animation job. So like I thought, because I'm working at a bigger studio now, I'll have all the pay and I'll have all the paid maternity leave and all that. But actually, like because I didn't do much of a research, and I realized, oh my gosh, actually. No, because I wasn't in the studio a year, so I wasn't qualified for a lot of stuff, for a lot of benefits. But also, like, there are state benefits you could apply, which is great. I'm gonna do that. But I realized sometimes the state benefit, this is only in California, I can't say for other places, but state benefits, they calculate the amount of pay for the, like, I think it's like 4 months or something, like a quarter, and they calculate the average, for a certain period of time. So somehow when I decide to, okay, I'm gonna go on maternity leave at this time, and then just happen, the system kind of calculate my, the quarter that's before I started there. So all my previous payment wasn't accounted for. So basically get paid nothing. I was like, no, it can't happen. So I had to change the paperwork, delay my maternity leave starting date, so to fix that problem. So I think for us, like if we're starting a career, no matter you're established or not, it's always good to do your research first. Like say, okay, maybe I'll start a family, even if you're just thinking about it, just good to know what are the policies are there, like how much your company will pay for, how much you can get from the states or government. I think that's one thing I should have done. I think even like I think for me it's like, yeah, I was at that time I was more confident because I had a social media presentation, because I know I will get work. I wasn't too worried, but also it's just you don't know, right? Because I feel like there's a momentum. I might lose the momentum. I don't know if I'm being away for too long, would that be just gone? So that's always a scare. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess my point is just always do your research. Even if you're just starting your career, it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm starting my career and so I can't have a family. That still can happen. Just it's good to know what how to get support from the company, from the government. I think that's my experience.
Yeah, that is important. And again, know that everybody's journey is different, but doing your research is like having the map sort of available to start, so
And do it early.
having that foundation is good to know. So I know we're going to run out of time here soon. We wanted to ask if anybody had questions or that we can entertain. Yes, back there.
Hey, thank you all so much for this important conversation. I'm a newly minted pandemic parent. As of March 21, so I really relate to a lot of what you all are saying. So I have a bigger question because basically the U.S. ranks last in terms of a lot of the support that we can provide parents, especially new moms, in their recovery. So any thoughts as to what we in the creative community can do together to continue fighting for paid family leave and advocating for the additional support that we all need as families?
Me? You? Me? Oh, right. Well, I think I can definitely say that, using organizations that are trying to do the same thing, like if you're not part of Women in Animation, they are probably one of the leading groups trying to figure this out. But again, they're a nonprofit advocacy. They don't have that kind of power. We have voice though. So I think continuing to have these conversations and to lean on people, organizations like that, but also these are things you could talk to even legislators about. Like you have the right to state people, local people, anybody that has any say in this, and say, who's looking at this? It's not even just an animation industry thing. Honestly, it is, like I said before, it's a human thing. A lot of us have ties to older people, younger people, spouses, siblings, whatever, that we want to be able to support in the world, but also earn a living. So I feel like while there are definitely organizations trying to make this change, any voice anywhere and pushing it into legislative realm as well is vital.
just want to, just quickly with what Eliza was saying about social media and community, talking to your peers, like what are other studios getting? What are other folks in other companies getting? Just so that when you go to your boss or whatever, you can be like, hey, this is what's happening over at X, or this is what's being, so why can't we be doing that? Or let's have let's make that connection so we can see how we can make that happen. Because if this company's making it happen, we should be able to make it happen too. So yeah, just knowing what other benefits others are getting in the industry, I think is really important.
Yeah, and I know I've had these conversations with members of the guild, that are trying to make these changes happen as well on a broad scale. But, each studio has the power and the money to make changes if they so wish. So again, it's getting, honestly, I think it's getting all the big studios to come along with this path. I do really respect the smaller studios that have done this already and are finding ways to be more flexible. That's great.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm curious if you could pick the ideal setup to be able to be a parent and work in the studio, what would that be? And what's the incentive for companies not to do that?
Anyone?
What do you mean, like an ideal setting? Like how to function as like 100% as a parent?
If you could pick, if you could choose your setup, would you work from home? Would you work in-house? Would you have your child in the office with you? Would you have them in an on-site daycare center? I'm just curious, if you could pick your dream setup to where you feel like you would be most fulfilled as a parent and an employee and the most functional possible, what would you pick? And why would studios not? I'm curious, what your perspective is on why they wouldn't support that.
I think it's literally a matter of flexibility. Because everybody's situation is different. Some kids need more support than others. Some parents need more support than others. Even dads need a lot of support. Just having that flexibility. And unfortunately, bigger studios are not as willing to be flexible. But that would be my answer. Just as long as everybody can be accommodated to their situation, probably be the ideal thing. I think now more than ever, that's possible. The opportunity's been shown that flexibility is a thing now. So take advantage of this while the iron's hot.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, just to say that, major studios made motion pictures from home. It does happen. So if you were given, say, a quota, here's my work, and you promise to get that work done by the date it's due, doesn't matter if you're sitting at a desk here or sitting at home or doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning or doing it at 5 o'clock in the evening, whatever, right? As long as you can hit the professional goals that were set, I don't think it should matter where you are as a physical person if you're getting the work delivered to the expected place at the expected level of quality. So
the things I would love to see is job shares, especially for people that are working on sets. Like I said, I have a costuming background, to be like, hey, I'm going to work 3 days. This person's going to work 2 days. These are my hours. It's part-time. There's literally no reason why that can't be done. If you're an efficient working human being, you have your continuity Bible that's literally there so that anyone can walk in, pick that up, and know what needs to be done. There's literally no reason why that can't be done, other than people's this is just the way this always been done. So that's it. And the second thing I would love to see is childcare, daycare centers on studio lots. Whether that's run by the studio or whether they're contracting that out. Again, no reason why that can't be done, because it exists in other places. There are literally mobile childcare. So there's organizations, and I'm forgetting the names of them, but there's literally companies that will come, especially to, that may be a conversation for Bobby and Jim for next year, that could come and they can have childcare on site so that if folks want to come and do panels, they can bring their kid with them and feel that they can drop them off. Those are two things that feel really easy, very attainable. But again, we're all very busy, right, in terms of advocating for these things, right? We just need to, in that moment, talking about being efficient, getting stuff done. I need to get my work done. I'll figure, this is an option that's available for me for childcare right now. That's what I'm going to do. In an ideal world, yeah, we would all be advocating for job shares and daycares, but it's just about making that a priority for all of us.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Thank you guys for taking the time. I'm just curious, as freelancers, how did you get into that, find your position, or find work as freelancers, and then also set your rates? I'm curious to get some feedback on that.
Oh, so in general, as a freelancer, like pricing. Oh, it's for me, it's been a long process. I've been doing it for 10 years. Definitely didn't set the price high enough in the beginning, so I actually ended up finding associate, an attorney who helps me and advocates for me. And she thinks I'm worth way more than I do. So that's been good for my business. So I would say, and that's like, I needed to reach a certain place before that was a possibility or before I chose that as a route. So I would just find peers that you compare yourself with. Actually, just look a little bit above, like the one that's just a few steps before you, not the one who's been doing it forever, but the one who's just a little bit above you, and try to like reach out and figure out what that person knows. That's how I started. I was very into Instagram on the early ages, and I found peer that I compared myself with, and we kind of built a community, and we've grown together, and we've sparred of each other from the very beginning. So that has because then one gets a job and was like, I got this much, and then you're like, okay, so that's doable. And then I built myself up like that. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I would say talk numbers with people, and don't be scared if they give you a number, you're like, whoa, it's not what I expected. It's how I found out by some random posts on Instagram how much actually people pay for even ads on social media. Like, that blew my mind. Yeah. Like, it's in the thousands, and I was like, I did this for free.
So you get a pen out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can get a sketchbook.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk numbers, I would say. And nice.
Yeah, I think definitely what helps me a lot is talking with my friends who work in the industry and see, like, sometimes it might be rude, but you can always say, hey, I'm just curious. I got this job offer. They offer this much money. How much you think, is that good? Is that good? Or maybe it could be higher. And also when you give your quote or your price to your clients, always shoot for a little higher. It's easy to say, okay, the clients could say, okay, that's a little bit too much. We can't afford that. You can come down a little bit. But it's hard if you have a too low a price. You can't go back up. So it's like a negotiation kind of thing. As for building the career, I think it's just it takes time and it takes persistence. For me, it's social media. It helps a lot. I think it's for both of all of us basically. Just definitely have an online presentation. Put your work online so people will see over time. You will see the difference.
Yeah, I think the virtual community is a great network to get into, but even being here today and meeting people and talking to people is amazing. So you guys are already on the right path. Yes, sir. Do you want to?
Thank you for the time. I have just a simple question as freelancers and parents. Before you were parents, when you could work late into the night, what does that look like for you now? I know you mentioned sometimes you just go to bed. I completely relate to that. So have the late evenings working on whatever deadline you have, has that ceased or has that still continued even as a freelancer?
For me, it stopped.
For me,
I
it
don't do it anymore.
continues.
Mine stopped. I can't. I'm too tired. I actually really I've become very, very efficient in being like, I go to the office at 9, I leave at 5. If I do anything outside that, it's something I communicate with my husband, and I'm like, I need this for this time, but I'm very aware that I'm doing it, but I really need otherwise my life falls apart. I loved my late working hours, like drawing hours for personal drawings, but I don't know when they're going to come back.
Yeah, I personally will say, and maybe it's because I'm a writer and not an artist, I still burn the midnight oil. Coffee is my friend. But, my kids are older now, so there was a phase where I wasn't doing that, but I absolutely, at this point, they can put themselves to bed sometimes. It's fine. Like, I think it's whatever your natural rhythm is, but don't burn yourself out. Like, that is knowing when to say when to whatever hours you're doing it is important. Yeah. Let's see, in the pink right here.
How how were able to separate yourself from having your laser focus for yourself to watch it to be with your kids all the time?
I think it's really hard to focus on kids and the art at the same time. I tried that, didn't work. So no. So it's actually good. Like, you have your office space. Like when you're working, you're focused on working, and you know that your child is taken care of, or have support. And when you're with him or her, your little one, your kids, before there, don't swipe on your phone, don't check your emails. But of course, sometimes we do have to check emails. That's fine. But I'm trying to say, just like be more present. So I think that worked out for me very well, to just divide the hours instead of trying to do everything at the same time. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, for me, it's also been like, there is the office hour, which is where I work, but for me, it's more been as I mentioned earlier, the mental thing about I am just accepting that I'm a different person now, and I am not as focused on what my career, where it should bring me, and what I wanted to do. And I know at some point the kid grows up and I'm going to be like, okay, so do I still want to do this, or what else? Because I know I'm a driven person, but I'm just letting life be what it is. And that caught me by surprise, but I'm kind of enjoying it. So it's one of those things I'm like, don't be scared of it. Just lean into it. Like, enjoy that you have like a more, like, it just kind of cleared my mind a little bit for a while. So that was experience, I would say.
Yeah, I think I've seen you raise your hand for a while. We maybe just have time for one more question, then we perhaps let the room go, but please.
Thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hear about it. I was just curious, now that you guys are parents, what do you wish you would have done differently now that you know what it's like?
In regards to kids?
Like, now that you're doing work and you have kids,
Okay.
Before you had that, you didn't know those things. So, like, what do you know now, and what do you wish you would have done differently?
I can say, because I have 2 kids. So the first time, I was very much like, I'm just gonna do what I did before, and quickly I learned that that's impossible. And the hardest part was, as I was telling, it was like, why am I not home right now with my child when I can't be? So the second time, I made sure that I was there from the beginning, and I prioritized that. And I, as you said, I just accepted it's like my life is very different now, and that's okay. And whatever happens, happens. But if it won't be the same as before. So I think just accepting that early faster would have been nice, so that I don't feel like kind of this regret after, like, oh, I wish I was there a little more.
Yeah, I would say just I would have enjoyed the more selfish times more, enjoying that I could. Now I'm like, why didn't I go out every night? Like, why was I at home? Like, yeah, and, the flexibility, like seeing friends, or like really going and enjoying the like, I love going to the movies, so I did that a lot, and just really get into the project that you want to do, like all you like being more selfish about your own dreams, and whether it's something that's going to lead to something career-wise, or it's just something I enjoyed to do. I'll be like, yeah, should have been out more.
Yeah, I don't have
ahead,
anything
no,
to add.
I was just gonna
totally
say,
agree.
For me, I would just say, learning earlier not to compare yourself to what you used to be or what other people are doing. Like, accept your own journey for what it is. Because I could say, oh, had I stayed in the industry, I'd be an animation producer right now. I'd be, that person. Because I have peers that were at the same level when I stepped out that are doing that. And I applaud their success and I applaud their choices. We just have to know we all make different choices, and whatever works for you works for you. So I'd go with that.
Having kids is fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. Like, it's where it in different ways that you really can't anticipate until you have kids. So yeah, like, it's not, I don't know why, I'm just like, because I've been working so much and I haven't really seen them. So it's just like it's a weird thing to be up here talking about my kids that I'm not with right now. But yeah.
And it is an emotional thing. It is. I mean, again, like in every moment, you can feel something different, you can experience something different, but realize it's a journey, and you're ever changing, your family's ever changing, but it all is on a path to go somewhere great, and enjoy those moments when you're in them as much as you can. That to me is part of this journey. But I would stay and talk more. We can talk outside there, but I know the room needs to be moved into the next phase.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here with us.